Today I'll be walking you through the basics of the Rivian, specifically the second generation Rivian. Now behind me is the R1S, which is the SUV version, but this video will be nearly identical to the R1T, which is the truck version. Now the R1S 2 is 90% same as Generation 1, but there is that 10%. This video will be especially helpful to you if you're getting ready to buy a Rivian or if you're just borrowing or renting it from a platform like Turo. One of the first questions I get about people that are new to electric vehicles is, how do I turn it on? Which is a valid question. Your whole life you use either a key or in the last decade, a push button to start. Electric cars, specifically the Rivian, don't do that. Think of this car like your cell phone. You rarely actually power it all the way down. It just goes to sleep and you're waking it back up. The same thing with Rivian. It will naturally go to sleep when you're not using it. It will wake up one of two ways. Just open the door and get in the car, or for some other reason, if it doesn't, you just touch the brake. Either one of these causes all the screens and displays to come on and you're good to go. So if you don't turn it on, how do you get started? How do you get going? Well, you still need a key. If you're the owner of the car, the key will be your smartphone. You'll get help from the dealership the day you pick it up, and they'll help you register your phone, and then it will act just like a fob in any other car that has such a thing. When you get in the car, as long as this is within the constructs of the car, you can put it in gear and go. If you don't have it, whether you're borrowing it or renting it on a platform like Turo, you're gonna get a little key card that looks like this. There's some sensors in the car you have to put it on to be able to put it into gear. And that sensor here on the Generation 2 is right here on the wireless charging station. If this key is right there, you can hear right there, it dings into place. With my foot on the brake, I can just put it into gear now. So looking from the driver's point of view, we're gonna put it into gear. Now again, your foot has to be on the brake. If your foot's on the brake, all your shifting's now done from this column. Up is going to go into the reverse, down is going to go into drive, and pushing on the end goes into park, and it's just a little light nudge one way or the other to put it into neutral. You'll see we're in park right now. I'm going to go down to go into drive, a hard click, we're into drive. The opposite, we're going to give a nice push up to go into reverse. You can see there we're in reverse, and of course the backup camera is on. Now to put it into park, we're just going to push the end like so. But if I want to go into neutral, I can push either up or down, but not until it clicks. I'm going to go just enough, just holding it down for about 2 seconds, and you can see there I'm into neutral, and of course then the push goes back into park. Next, we'll talk about the stalk that's over here on the left side of your steering wheel. It's of course going to do the turn signals, but that's just like any car you've ever done. It also controls the wipers as well as the headlights. The left stalk is a turn signal first, just like most cars out there on the road, pushing it up to turn right and pushing it down to signal a turn to your left. What might be slightly different is how you activate the wipers. You'll notice there's two little buttons on the end. The top one is going to activate the auto or change settings in the front wipers, whereas the rear button, which we'll press here, just turns the auto wipers on the rear. Now when they're on, they're just on the auto, meaning they're going to sense the rain and turn off and on their own based on usage. When they're off, they're just going to be off and they won't turn on until you hit that bottom button again. Pressing the top button once turns your wipers on a single time. If you hold it, it's going to turn on the washer fluid. Now there is this little knob here on the front. It actually is accessible through the back also. So if your finger is more comfortable to run on the back, you can turn it on this way. By nudging this, you bring up the little menu on the screen. It gives you two different types of settings you can put it into. The first is an auto, where it senses rain, a high, medium, low within that. And there's also intermittent settings, a high, medium, fast, and then very fast under that. Again, these are activated by pressing that little toggle button on the front or back of the stalk. Exiting the vehicles where there's a slight difference from the Generation 1. Also, you have an electronic button to press just here below your thigh. This is what's actually going to pop the door open. Now there is still a manual door release lever up towards the front of the door, but this is just for emergency use only. It's still recommended that you use the button to open the door normally. When you press this, it's going to slightly slide the door open to where you can open it fully. What about how to lock the vehicle and unlock the vehicle from outside? Again, if you're using your phone as the key, as you approach, it'll unlock, and as you walk away, it'll likely lock unless you've changed settings. But if you just have the key card, you can lock it by simply holding this card next to the door handle. And you'll notice the handles will go flush and the mirrors will close down. To unlock, it's the same step in reverse. It's just a matter of holding it on the door handle and the car unlocks like so. Next, we'll talk about charging, a pretty important thing for an electric vehicle. But before we go inside and talk about how to find a charging station, where do you actually charge it on the vehicle? Well, that's right here in the front, same as Generation 2, touching this little 3 vertical hamburger line right here. The port will open like so, and you press on the same area in return to close it back up. Now to find chargers from the main screen, hitting that little triangular navigation icon on the bottom brings up the map. There's 3 different settings along the top of the map that are all filters that you can narrow down your searches, first by network. Now let's filter by speed. This will help you differentiate between levels 1, 2, and 3 chargers. The 3, with the 3 lightning bolts, will be the fastest of all your chargers. Level 1 will be the slowest, but this will be painfully slow. It can take days to charge your vehicle. Level 2 will be faster, 6 to 8 hours. These are likely what's at a hotel, which are fine for overnight. But if you're on any kind of road trip, you're going to want that level 3 supercharger that will charge your vehicle in a matter of 30 to 45 minutes, potentially to an hour for really low. Next, the charging network. This is going to let you determine which company you want to charge from. I tend to prefer the Electrify Americas for reasons we'll get into, but really all of these will work. Tesla is a recent addition to charging networks that Rivian's allowed to charge at, but you do need an adapter, which your vehicle may or may not have. I know they don't necessarily come with one of these. The Rivian network works really well, however, there's just not many out there, they're few and far between. Another reason I suggest Electrify America to beginners is because they're the one charging network out there that I'm familiar with that doesn't require you to download an app. You can just pay with a credit card right from the charging station. And you can stack these 2 filters together by searching speed and the network at the same time. But if you remove the filters, it will search for all of those included. So as I back out now here, you'll see I'm searching by just speed, only 3 lightning bolt or level 3 chargers, but all stations. You can see here, even on the edge of the Rocky Mountains, here I am in Denver, there's still these high-speed chargers all throughout the mountains. But if I filter back down through Electrify America, you'll see it does thin out. Now, one of the reasons I like Electrify America is they do tend to be in parking lots of shopping centers like a Walmart or a Target, which makes it a whole lot more convenient. You don't have to just sit there and wait for your car to charge. You can go in, shop, use the restroom, or even get something to eat. Now we'll talk about different drive modes. You'll select this by hitting that little car icon on the bottom of the screen. You can see here, you have all-purpose, snow, and all-terrain modes to pick from. I'm in the snow mode, but you can tell by the snow animation. The all-purpose is what you're going to be in most of the time, just driving around. It does have the all-terrain mode, but this is really for off-roading. In fact, you'll see it makes you confirm you're actually going off-roading. It also has the snow mode, which works really well when you're driving in deep snow. The only downside to driving in snow mode is it does seem to use more battery power. So even when you're driving with snow around you, but the pavement is dry, I still tend to drive in that all-purpose mode to conserve energy. On the same screen, in addition to drive modes, you have some default Rivian settings that are here on the bottom left. The first of which is the height. You can adjust the height of your vehicle up or down, but I tend to leave it on auto because the car is going to adjust on its own and lower it from a higher setting based on the speed you're going and your other settings. Most users tend to leave ride feel and stability where they're at, but you can adjust them here. The regen is referring to the braking that stops your vehicle that's also charging your battery. This is probably the one that's most adjusted. Now, I recommend leaving it on high because it's going to be saving you the most battery and in return getting you the most range. But if you're more comfortable in the medium setting, that's great. Or even when you first start driving in low, but I would challenge you eventually to use that medium and then eventually high because it does give you your maximum amount of range. But before you start driving, you're going to want to adjust the car to your specific height, stature, and your preferences, specifically talking about the steering wheel and mirrors. Both of these are adjusted in the profile settings and are unique to that specific profile. So as I hit Michael as my name, it drops down, you'll see a steering wheel and a side mirror. That steering wheel first, you'll notice that the left scroll button is going to mess with my reach, moving the handle in and out, and the right scroll is going to mess with the height, moving it up and down. Next is the mirrors. Again, the left side is going to control the left mirror, scrolling up and down, moving it up and down, moving it left and right, and the same thing with the passenger mirror as well. Something else you might find helpful if you're on a trip, and that's the adaptive cruise control. This is also going to be activated from the right stalk on the right side of your steering wheel. As you can see here, there's the little animations along the top of the wheel here. Pulling this back towards you twice will put it into the adaptive cruise control, and then pulling it back just once will limit how far or how close you'll get to the car in front of you, measured in distance of car lengths by either 1, 2, or 3. One thing that might seem like an accident to you that is absolutely not, it's done on purpose, is there's a little button on the bottom here that opens the tailgate of the truck. You can always remember the V in Rivian is pointing to the rubber button on the bottom of the tailgate that opens up this back hatch door. Putting the third row down on your R1S is just like the Generation 1. You flip the little knob here, the headrest drops, and this goes down. Same thing here on the other side. One addition to the Generation 2 is now you can drop the middle row by buttons here in the rear of the car. You push these, that drops the middle row. You push this, it then drops the one on the right as well. Then also don't forget about the really cool trademark features of the Rivian, which has the built-in air compressor, but also has the built-in AC type wall outlet. But that's not all the storage, because don't forget, in an electric vehicle, you also have storage in the front trunk, or the frunk as many people now call it. There's a release button to open this frunk just down here on the bottom. It's a rubber texture, so it kind of stands out. It opens with a simple one press. One of the benefits of the Generation 2 is they've kind of upgraded this whole frunk area. As you can see here, still a lot of cargo space. There is also a lower compartment. Now, what's in this lower compartment may vary on what particular model you have. So for example, on my particular model, I have what is a charger inside that's always in here. I have flat tire sealant, as well as I have a little med kit. Also in this frunk area is where you'd add more washer fluid if needed, and there's also a little built-in light. Another kind of cool benefit that all Rivians have is built inside the door, there's a flashlight. And the cool thing about this is, in addition to being a decent flashlight, it's always charging while it's in the door, so you never have to worry about batteries or charging or anything like that. Something else that'll be helpful for you to know if you're new to electric vehicles. Now, this is not Rivian specific, but more of like electric vehicle specific, and that is the regenerative braking. Regenerative braking allows your battery to charge while your vehicle is slowing. So if you were in a typical combustion car and you let your foot off the accelerator, you just coast. That is not the case with electric vehicles like Rivian. You will slow down quickly. Going at speeds of 50 miles per hour, when you let go of the accelerator, you will slow to a complete stop within 5 seconds. That's roughly 20 times faster than just a coast would allow you to do. It will be an adjustment to your driving style, but you'll want this because it maximizes your range. So just get used to what many of us call one pedal driving. Learn to feather that accelerator in and out and not just let go, because you're going to come to a stop. Here's a good example of regenerative braking in action. So I'm going down a little bit of a hill right now, 70 miles an hour. You can see that yellow is how much battery power I'm using. When I let off the accelerator, that green shows to the level at which my car is actually charging right now. So while I'm barely going down to miles per hour, I'm actually adding battery power to my vehicle, thus adding range. But the quicker I accelerate and the more aggressively I accelerate, the more I'm draining my battery. Now, the brake pedal is always available to you to stop quickly in an emergency, but for many cases, you can drive significant distances, even in and out of traffic, never touching that brake, and by doing that, you'll maximize your car's range. But speaking of range, how far can you get on a Rivian? Again, that depends on your trim levels, but you're gonna get somewhere between 270 and 320 miles of range, but that's on a full charge. Most electric vehicles, including Rivian, will recommend you charge it only up to 80% for daily use, but you're totally fine to use it at a much higher level, like let's say 90 or 100% if you're trying to go long distances. Don't necessarily look at it as miles. Again, take the example of your phone, look at it as percentage. You would never look at your phone and think, how many minutes of talk time do I have? Because all that's gonna vary on how fast you're driving, where your headwind is, are you driving uphill, downhill, how well have you learned to use your regenerative braking? That being said, I feel like Rivian is one of the most accurate as far as guesstimated mileage on your screen. It's much more accurate than Lucid and Tesla in my personal experience. If it tells you you can have 270 miles of range, as long as you're driving between 65 and 75 miles per hour, you'll probably get within 90 to 95, potentially even 98% of that stated range. And if you start to question how far you're gonna get, or if you're getting close to your destination and that mileage are starting to line up, just slow down a little bit. The slower you drive and the more you use that regenerative braking we just talked about, the farther you're gonna get on that single charge. Hopefully that helps you as you get on with your Rivian adventure. If you wanna see more of this, or if you wanna see a full breakdown between the Generation 1 and Generation 2 behind me here, subscribe to the channel and we'll do all those in coming videos.